talked about that a little bit, right? So let's just go right there. So leadership is influencing people to action, not to be confused with management, which is the control and allocation of resources. Right? And again, it's not job descriptions, role. Right? I'm talking about the soft skills. Right? So this class is not for managers only, for supervisors only, for whatever. It's for people in the context of these kinds of skills and these kinds of skills. Right? Now, I'm not going to teach you how to do PMPs. I might talk about how to use leadership in a PMP. I might talk about using leadership skills in a project or schedule kind of context, but that's not where we're going to go. We're always going to go back to leadership and that topic. Right? The last thing I want to say on leadership is, again, you're always influencing people. So as long as you work with people, you are being a leader by this definition. Now, you might not be your supervisory title or whatever, but when you step into an elevator with someone and say, hey, how are you doing? Right? That is a leadership interaction, right? What's like the most common thing that you think you get on like a Monday morning? Hey, how you doing? Well, the weekend wasn't long enough. And I'm guilty of that myself. But that is influencing people. You're priming someone's day. You know that term, priming the pump? You're setting someone up to have that as their default response for the rest of the day. Oh, Monday. Yeah. You know. Or it could be like, hey, Monday, I've got a great day planned. I get to see some of my friends and coworkers. I get to do this, right? Opportunities to influence their behavior. And what did we learn from the first exercise? It's not necessarily the actions, right? It starts with the thoughts, and then it shows up in actions and behaviors. So definition of leadership. What we're going to talk about these in this class is a bunch of tools, right? Sunglasses, right? When you put on a pair of sunglasses, it changes your view of the world, right? You're going to be walking around through some kind of tint, right? Is it dark? Is it light? Or whatever. Apply it back to the elevator analogy, right? If you put on the sunglasses like, hey, it's going to be a great day. It's going to look like it's going to be a great day, right? And maybe your actions resulting from these thoughts will be different, right? How might this like apply to a meeting, right? We're going to be on point, right? I'm going to wear sunglasses of like, this meeting is going to be on time, on point. We're going to hit the agenda and move. It could be, this meeting's a little bit of fun, right? But whatever these sunglasses are that you want to put them on. So this is a mirror. A mirror helps you see who you really are. It helps you see reality. It's a reflection of what is. I know for myself and just my experience with people, sometimes people have a colored view of who they are. Again, they're wearing a pair of sunglasses, right? So that's where feedback and other tools like that are going to help you truly assess who you are, what you're doing, and where you are at in various points in life. The truth is, for me, right, I'm not management material for HMSA. How do I know that? Because I'm not a manager. Sometimes that's harsh, right? But sometimes it takes someone to show a mirror. So, oh, damn it. That sucks. Okay, well, now that I know, okay, now I can move on and go and do something different, right? That's the point of a mirror. I like to use basketball as a good analogy because it's a team sport. Leadership is a team sport, just like basketball. So while you'll have the option in this class to maybe scrimmage a little bit, I'm not going to be necessarily setting you up in a way to be a complete basketball player, right? That's going to take practice. That's going to take work on your own part. Will we be practicing shooting the ball? Yes. Will we be practicing passing? Yes. Will we run through some defensive drills? Yes. But is that going to make me Kobe Bryant? No, right? No. Is it too soon? He's my guy, so. One of Kobe's things, right? Practice, 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 right? So that when it became game time, he was ready, right? Same thing here, right? We're going to have exercises where you will learn a lot of concept. You're going to have an experience and you'll have the opportunity to share about it. The great thing is that this is a safe place and you'll have the opportunity to learn here. And there's no like real world implications to something that you've learned here, right? If you miss a shot in real life, there could be consequences to your family. You know, you could get in a car accident, all this stuff. Stuff could happen in real life, whereas in here it's a safe place, right? Does that make sense? So we are going to be doing drills. We will be practicing, but in the end, it comes down to your ability to execute in the real world. And that's why basketball, I think, is a really good analogy, because it truly is a team sport. You never know what the other team is going to be doing. You have a good idea of where your teammates are going to be, but you don't know, right? And you don't know until that moment. So we're going to go kind of through a 3-topic process. We're going to make sure that people become aware. That's what self-awareness is, right? Understanding your behaviors and being aware of them. Being aware of your strengths and weaknesses. You get to learn how to lead yourself, and then you'll be working on leading others. And so not necessarily in this sequence, but all 3 things, possibly even at the same time. Does everybody have any questions about this? No? What was your question?
No.
Questions? No?
No.
So I asked about your values. The values in this room, this is what we're going to agree to as the purpose of this, as the values for this class. You know, and as with any team, you want to commit to a set of values that everyone can agree upon.
Oh my God.
So, in my teams, I always like to tie postmortems to values. Hey, so you know when we did this, was that in alignment or out of alignment with one of these things, right? So one of the Agile principles is transparency, right? Hey, when we did this, was that in alignment with transparency? Oh, how can we be more transparent, right? And then you assign that action item to someone, et cetera, et cetera. But, so these are the values that this group is going to be agreeing with. Does anyone have any questions on what some of these words are? Empathy, understanding people, understanding others. Any of these other words kind of confusing? No? Mm-hmm. So the last thing I want to touch on, this is a safe place. Anything that comes out of Jason's mouth, you can repeat. I don't care. But anything that comes out of someone else's mouth is not repeatable. Now, if Cheryl shares something and I had like a life-changing experience, what I could say is like, oh, I had a life-changing experience in the class. Someone said something irrelevant, but what I learned is that, ... right? Changing it to my perspective, that way it's clean and again, while it is important what someone else said, it's not really important, right? What's important is what you personally can take away from said experience. Any questions on those?
No.
Ground rules. So the most important one, like I just said, I just referenced, is confidentiality. Confidentiality of others' words and actions. What is said or done in this room does not leave this room. The exercises, that's fine, you can talk about them. The concepts, it's fine, talk about them. Anything comes out of my mouth, perfectly fine. But anything someone else says or does, under confidentiality. So like we talked about, like at the very beginning, you either do or you don't, right? Mm-hmm. And what you do get to explore as part of your journey is like, how important is this to me, right? Because leadership does look cool on a PMP, right? It might be in there and you might need to take action to get your 4 or 5 or whatever. But is it worth it for you to come in at 5 in the morning and put up jump shots, right? Is it worth it to put in practice? I don't know, right? For some people, I would say that just by the fact that you're here, it's important. Some of the people it's not, and that's okay, right? So related to this, so this is why I think the strategy of rolling out leadership training to management, it's a strategy, but you're forcing all of these people who don't want to go to practice, right? So, oh yeah, in class, in class, they're gonna be doing their layup lines and all of their stuff, but what's gonna happen outside of class? Are they playing basketball outside of the class, right? Are they following through with the technique that they learned in class, or are they just doing whatever they did before? Right? So to me, you kind of need both, right? You need all of these different avenues to get to the end. Different strategy. Any questions on these ground rules? Okay, so with ground rules, whose rules are they? With any kind of rules. Why do you say that?
We need to respect each other. So it's our rules that everyone would need to agree and follow.
I mean, until you
Take
make
an oath.
rules yours, then you'll either follow them or not. Let's just take speed limits, right? Why do speed limits exist?
To maintain order and everyone's safety.
And that's it, right? It empowers people to make decisions about how fast they're going. Like if you're going through a bank turn, it's a guideline on how fast you should be driving. On a steep bank turn, you could be going 100 miles an hour if you know how to drift, right? But is that safe for everyone else, right? It empowers you to make decisions because everyone else has these expectations. So when you have all of these rules, it helps to clarify things, right? Make sense? Yeah? All right. What is that? It's a picture of what?
Desert.
Desert. Good, you didn't even draw that one too. No, I'm just
I
kidding.
didn't know.
She helped me draw things last time.
That's nice.
So, the desert is what I would metaphorically refer to as context. What else might you find in the desert?
Sunny.
Yeah, absolutely. What else? Sand.
Hills.
Ecosystem.
I'm sorry, what?
Ecosystem.
Ecosystem, yeah. Like specifically what? Give me some specific things that you will find in the snakes,
Scorpions.
scorpions, all this buggy stuff, right? Buzzards, right? All that stuff. Would you find a pine tree in the desert?
No.
Crocodile? Desert crocodiles?
No.
Maybe that's bad. Shark. You wouldn't find a shark
No.
in the desert, right? That's because it has the context that only allows certain things to be in existence. Right? Context is a metaphor for your team, for your department, for your family, for everything. So this is our context in this room, right? We're going to encourage certain things and discourage other things, right? You want to make sure that your personal context, the context of your team, is in alignment with whatever it is that you want. If you want a pine tree, make sure that you're not a desert, if that makes sense. If you want a great team, make sure that your context supports that. There's not really such a thing as culture. And what I mean by that is culture is really just a reflection of your reality, right? You can't, when you're fighting culture, you're actually fighting all of this other stuff. You're fighting real values of the organization. You're fighting HR policies and hiring practices and all that stuff. You're fighting all of these behaviors. But it's really all of these little different things that make the environment that you're fighting. You're not fighting the whole desert at once, if that makes sense. So back to what I said earlier, create a context for your unit, your family, or whatever that is conducive to whatever it is that you want. So as we talked about in unit experience in the first exercise, a lot of it does start with up here, which is basically your mindset. What you think about, what's important to you, those will affect how you feel about a certain action. So who here would consider themselves an introvert? Do you like people?
Yeah.
Like people, right? But you might value being alone, because I value being alone. I like that space. I like people. I love talking with them and all that stuff. But I always gravitate toward being solo, right? That's how all of these thoughts and feelings are. So, an example of like how those thoughts affect feelings is like, oh man, then I'm gonna, so oh yeah, let's go to, margaritas after work. Oh man, but I'm gonna be so tired. I don't want to do that. I just want to go home and rest. Right? But if you can imagine that kind of chain thinking between like, oh, I like being alone, all the way to, yeah, guys, yeah, maybe I'll see you there. Right? Those are the kind of words that might come out of my mouth. Versus, take an extrovert, someone who likes to party and be around people. Yeah, let's go do it, right? Because they know it's going to be fun and they value these things, right? And they're going to promote it to all of their friends and invite them and everyone to come so that they all have a good time, right? So as with the first exercise, right, it starts with thoughts, and in the end, it'll result in behaviors collectively, which are your results. Does this chain kind of make sense? Internal mindset drives results. We talk about that in a leadership seminar because these results are what's important, like to yourself and to the organization. But you don't manage this. Well, you can manage this, and we do. But to lead someone to those results, you want to play with up here the mindset. That kind of makes sense. We have these kind of two different frameworks. And it's not that you should or should not do one or both, right? Everything works in conjunction together. But from a learning perspective, you want to play with it. Am I trying to lead and influence people, or am I trying to manage specific behaviors that I don't want? Because sometimes when you manage at the behavior level, behaviors keep creeping in because you haven't addressed the root problem, right? Again, back to context. Man, why do all these cactuses keep coming up? Why do they keep growing? Because you're in the desert. You've created that desert. Okay. What we're gonna do is take a short. What time is it?
12:48.
12:40. We're gonna take a